they showed the story on the news, I started screaming. I had to literally get up and walk away from the television.
He was the brother I didn't have but always wanted, and I didn't have him for long enough.
It's very rare, obviously, to get surveillance footage of an actual murder.
They don't get any money. They didn't gain anything out of what they did. It was just senseless.
The trail became cold, and we were desperate for a lead.
Investigators wanted to dust the counter for prints, but everybody that comes in there could touch that counter.
The culprits are either going to mess up, or somebody gets in trouble and wants a deal to help.
It's fall 2004 in Richland County, a sprawling region in the center of South Carolina. 24-year-old Willard Grandstaff is hard at work at the Kangaroo Express convenience store.
He worked all the time. It seemed like he never had a day off. I'm Lexi Reister, and I'm Will's cousin. Will ran the cash register at the Kangaroo. He cleaned and front-faced the shelves. He would stock the coolers. He would count the safe down and make sure the drawers were whatever their drawers were supposed to be. When Will did anything, he always did it wholeheartedly. He was a little bit of a workaholic. He never complained about the store, and he never complained about going into work. It's like the store became a friend to him. My mom and my dad were managers, and they ended up training Will. The only thing I can ever remember is Will at the Kangaroo. He worked at the Kangaroo literally his whole adult life.
When Willard isn't working, he enjoys spending time with his close-knit family.
There's about a 16-year age difference. He was just out of high school when I was turning 3. So I remember doing the little sister bugging him thing. Will and I lived with my parents and my aunt, Will's mom. Will's mother is one of the sweetest women ever. She practically raised me. I called her Mama Sue for the longest time. She's still my Mama Sue at heart.
At a young age, Sue began overcoming adversity when she was diagnosed with a severe hearing disability.
From the time I was a very young girl, I always felt isolated because of the fact that I couldn't hear. So I taught myself how to read. Disability was not well known until I turned 18.
In April of 1980, Sue's world gets a new edition when she welcomes her first child, Willard.
He was born at 11:57 a.m. on April 6th, which was Easter Sunday, 1980. We were close-knit. He was funny. He was always the child that anytime I said no, he couldn't do this, couldn't do that, they went ahead and did it anyway.
He was a very sweet, very friendly, mostly introverted person. He liked just the little geeky things, the video games. He did read the Harry Potter books as they came out. He was a huge nerd.
In 1996, at the age of 16, Willard and his family moved to South Carolina.
I am Robert Cribb. I got to know Willard Grandstaff at high school in the spring of 1996. I was coming out of my class one day, and I saw this boy standing there, and I said, I'm going over and speak to him. He looks like something's bugging him. So I walked up to him, and he said, Hi, I'm Willard Grandstaff. Can I have lunch with you? That's how we became good friends, and we became inseparable.
As the friendship evolves, Robert comes to Willard's defense.
Just before the bell rang for us to go into the class, me and Will were standing there talking, and a bully just come up to him and just shove him. Well, I went to the nearest assistant principal, and I told him, I said, it needs to stop.
The bullying continues, so Willard finds solace in his favorite pastime.
He loved martial arts. Him and I would get together, and he would show me different martial arts moves that he knew. Him and I would study our martial arts.
He'd have gone toe-to-toe with anybody that threatened us. He was very protective, so if you mattered to him, he would definitely protect you at all costs.
During his senior year, Willard begins working at the Kangaroo Express.
He took pride in the store. He made a lot of friends. He knew a lot of the customers that came in during the 11 to 7 shift. He took pride in knowing some of the customers by name.
Oh, he loved it. I would go in there and help him stack the totes up outside, and then we'd sit in a chair and carry on conversation all night long.
While working at the gas station, Willard dreams about what the future holds.
He was waiting for the winter session of the community college to start. He was going to sign up.
When he got paid, he would put money aside to save for his tuition. He wanted to go to Millis Tech and become a computer engineer. Will had plans to better himself.
One evening in late September, Willard prepares for his standard overnight shift at the Kangaroo Express.
I took him to work that night. Will never did like to drive. I didn't mind driving him to work. I guess that's a happy memory that I can hang on to.
Sue drops off her son, unaware that this is the last time she will see him alive.
I'm Investigator Brian Metz from the Richland County Sheriff's Office. Just after midnight, the morning of September the 28th, 2004, two ladies had stopped to get gas at the Kangaroo station on Garners Ferry Road. And they found the clerk on the floor. With blood up around his head.
Critical clues buried in Willard's final moments.
The accomplice was laying in wait. They knew he was somewhere.
An inside tip suggests a surprising motive.
To go take that next step into murder is unusual.
It's starting to look like there was some type of beef or argument with Willard.
And an unlikely witness unlocks the crime.
In this particular case, he was at one tip. That possibly changes everything.
On September 27th, 2004, while 24-year-old Willard Grandstaff prepared for work, he spoke to his best friend in one of his final moments.
I told him, I said, Will, you don't need to go to work. I got a funny feeling something's going to happen. I don't like Will to be out working after dark because I don't trust people out there. He said, Robert, I have to go to work. There's nobody that can work my shift for me. But Willard didn't have a lazy bone in his body. Well, I couldn't talk him out of it, and he went to work. He said, I'll call you at 12:30 a.m. to let you know that I made it to work safe. Well, 12 midnight come, 12:30 came. I'm laying in the bed waiting for the call. My phone never rings.
While Cribb waited to hear from Willard, Richland County Sheriff's officers responded to the 911 call from the Kangaroo Express.
I'm J. Stan Smith, Deputy Chief of the Richland County Sheriff's Department's Criminal Investigative Division. The individuals were obviously in a state of shock, what they had seen when they arrived at the store. But they immediately called 911, and we had EMS summoned to the scene, looking for signs of life. But the individual had passed away. Crime scene investigators became involved at that point.
The sergeant on duty briefed myself and spoke to the two people who had reported it. After that, we began the investigation. So when we go inside, we see the clerk on the floor in front of the counter and blood around his head and what appeared to be a gunshot wound to his head. A wound like that looks like it's pretty close up. You know, we're talking point blank. There could be a lot of explanations for that. Maybe somebody was mad at him. Did somebody have a big beef with him or hatred for him?
The victim had identification on him, and we were able to make contact with the management of the store relatively quickly. So we confirmed his identity through management.
We were able to identify that the clerk was Willard Grandstaff. Willard's uncle was manager at the store, and he assisted us while we were there. It's never good to have a person as young as Willard die. It's never easy on a family when something like this happens.
I busted out crying and screaming and yelling and hitting everybody that came anywhere near me because I didn't want to believe it.
I went into a severe, deep depression. I didn't want to do anything, and all I wanted to do was be with him.
I was 6 when Will died. He was my absolute best friend. I don't know if I truly had a concept of death that time, but I knew he wasn't coming home.
To piece together what happened to Willard, investigators and crime scene technicians process the scene.
Some of the display racks in front of the counter had been knocked over. Appeared to have been some type of struggle. The crime scene unit informed us that they had found a .380 caliber shell casing.
The shell casing, that's very significant in any investigation because, first of all, it tells you what gun you're looking for, and then ultimately, if you recovered a weapon, you could match it ballistically to the shell casing.
After bagging the casing, investigators spot something in the storeroom.
It's very rare to get surveillance footage of an actual murder. A convenience store would be a good opportunity where you do have surveillance video to show thefts and things of that nature. In this particular instance, there was video, and so the efforts were made to collect and secure the surveillance video, hoping that it would shed light on the identities of the perpetrators.
We could see that Willard was doing cleanup in the store and then had gone to the back of the store to stock the coolers. He was busy doing his job. Shortly before midnight, 2 males come in, larger male and a smaller male. Both of them are dressed in darker clothes. Their faces are covered. Both of them are carrying handguns. The larger male is an African-American male. The other one was hard to tell, not enough skin showing. He could have been a light-skinned African-American. He could have been white.
The 2 suspects separated in the store. The accomplice was over behind a rack. They obviously did not see Willard when they first came in. They knew he was somewhere, and they figured he would emerge.
So the lighter-skinned male goes behind the counter to the cash register, and then there was like a back office. He looked like he was looking probably for the clerk. The heavier-set male stands in front of the counter, I guess more like a lookout.
Police continue watching as the masked gunmen move through the store before Willard suddenly emerges.
Willard seemed to be pretty calm. The heavy-set male started demanding money from him and telling him to put his hands on the counter. So Willard refuses to do what he says and gets struck by the heavier-set male. The other male then comes from behind the counter, jumps over the counter, and basically falls, knocking over some things. and then Willard is able to get back to his feet.
They are sort of incredulous as to his refusal.
No! You heard me, no!
And that's when the shooter takes a look out the front door. And shoots Willard in the head. The two immediately turned to the door and walked out. They didn't run out, they walked out. It was sort of an impulse reaction, sort of like, I'm going to show you type thing is the impression I got from looking at the video. Willard was very brave to do what he did. You don't know the mindset of the person holding the gun. They're desperate, they're unpredictable. Willard was a true innocent victim. He was minding his own business. He had a job. He was trying to contribute to society. He didn't deserve to have this happen to him.
While rewatching Willard's final moments, Metz catches a glimpse of something of interest through the store window.
Shortly after they leave, you can see an older model pickup ride through the front parking lot right past the front door. We thought that might not be coincidence.
When reviewing surveillance footage of Willard Grandstaff's murder, investigators spot a truck leaving the scene. Could this vehicle be the key to identifying the killers?
It was believed it could be the suspect vehicle because of the short time between it circling through and the two suspects entering the store. So in the absence of other information, we had to believe that that truck was in play.
It's almost too good to be true that it's a coincidence that they just happened to ride through at that point.
As detectives collect information on the pickup truck, they notice something intriguing at the beginning of the encounter.
I am Rita Schuler, retired special agent with the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. Another very important thing that the investigators saw was when the slender guy jumped over the counter, he jumped and his palm touched the counter. And they figured, oh, we may be able to dust the counter and get a palm print that we could possibly lead back to him.
And we processed the counter area very deliberately in hopes that would produce a latent print or DNA that would help solve this case.
While awaiting results from forensics, something about this crime isn't sitting right with investigator Metz.
The one thing that got me was just the callousness of the way he was shot. It was totally uncalled for. There was no reason behind this.
After they shoot Willard, they leave the store. They don't get any money. They didn't gain anything out of what they did. It was just senseless.
The close-range nature of the shooting leads Metz to reconsider an earlier theory from the crime scene.
When you're looking at a case like this, you have to look at if there was anybody that had some type of beef or argument with Willard.
An individual may come in and try to steal a 12-pack of beer, but to go take that next step and to murder the clerk is unusual.
Investigators question Willard's co-workers and find out a surprising piece of information.
When we looked at possible suspects, we learned from management that Willard had thwarted a previous attempt to steal money out of the register. In this particular instance, he was successful in defending the store at that point in time. We found that video and we worked on that to see if maybe that individual came back and wanted to retaliate.
Investigators compare the features of Willard's assailants to the footage of the prior robbery attempt.
We take a close look at him, look at his height, his weight. but his physical characteristics didn't match.
Despite the dead end, investigators believe that the close encounter provides insight into Willard's mindset the night he was murdered.
It told us a lot about Willard as a person. He was proud of his job and may have given him confidence to stand up against these other two guys. He was not afraid. We got to believe that maybe he was bolstered some by his previous efforts to defend the store.
4 days after the murder, on October 2nd, Willard Grandstaff is laid to rest.
I was a pallbearer at his funeral. I walked up to his body, and I'm screaming, "No, stop, don't do this, wake up, let's go home." And I sat down and finally got myself together, and his mom said, "Robert, you need to let him go. He's at rest now. The good Lord needed him for something besides here."
Go up. The only thing I could tell the police was just to get the son of a bitches.
In the weeks after the murder, the case is at a standstill.
We just were basically stymied in the early part of this investigation. When you have a case like this where you're basically, your investigation has really turned cold kind of quickly, you're just desperately looking for similar crimes, trends involving maybe a weapon of the same caliber, things of that nature. Unfortunately, we have a lot of convenience store robberies. Anybody that we learned about that's committing, violent armed robberies and shooting people would have been subjects of interest in this investigation. We had to look at everything.
Investigators then get a call with a promising tip.
Another agency gave us a lead on some people that were committing some other burglaries in the area at the time.
Shamik and Prince. The Half brothers were on the radar because they had been in the South during that time period.
Investigators reach out to all police agencies in the area, gathering as much information about their new lead.
They definitely had violent things in their criminal histories. They're buying and selling guns, and they could have possibly been in the area. They're two people we're going to have to look at.
While investigators in the Willard Grandstaff murder wait for detailed reports on their new suspects, they re-examine forensic evidence collected at the scene to see if there is a link.
The forensic unit is pretty much looking for everything, and of course, the main things is fingerprints.
Well, when you examine the surveillance video, obviously you're interested in surfaces that may have been touched. DNA is so sophisticated now that skin cell tissue can leave what we call touch DNA.
But it's very hard when it's a public store like this. Everybody that comes in there could touch that counter.
You basically get a mixture of DNA that's unidentifiable exclusively to one person, and it's virtually impossible to isolate it.
I'm John Metters, and I was in charge of the prosecution in the murder of Willard Grandstaff. Unfortunately, there weren't forensics, there wasn't DNA. There weren't fingerprints. There may have been one partial palm print, but was not something that law enforcement could use.
With no viable forensic evidence, detectives reach back out to the agency that provided the tip.
At that point, we'd deal with investigators. We would have them take full body pictures, showing tattoos or anything, and then start doing a comparison there to see if things match up.
Investigators' search for the suspects takes a turn when they receive a new update.
We find out at the same time as Willard was killed. The Half brothers were incarcerated in another state. Both of them were caught up north somewhere. At that point, they were eliminated because we knew they were committing crimes at other places at the time that this murder occurred.
The trail became cold, and we were desperate for a lead. We were at a dead end.
Months after Willard's murder, the investigation is at a standstill, and his family is still on edge.
After Will was murdered, I know that my parents made extra sure to lock the doors and double check before they ever went to go do anything. I think they were worried. My mom worked at the store. I wanted my mom to come home. I didn't want her to get hurt. I worried a lot that someone else was gonna die. I try not to think about that store, ever.
With little else to go on, investigators make a bold move.
The sheriff's department decides to air this footage on the news, the local news channels in Columbia, in hopes that someone may identify the suspects or even identify this truck.
When you release surveillance video or you make an appeal to the public, you'll take information from whatever source it comes.
But not everyone is excited about the release of the surveillance video.
I remember they brought the video over, but they wouldn't let me watch it because I was a child, and so to this day, I've still never seen the video.
Days became weeks, weeks became months. During that time, law enforcement was working on it. They were getting leads, they were running down leads. They were still showing the video periodically, keeping it out in the public. But in cases like this, where you don't have a witness, what usually happens is that somebody out there, the culprits are either going to talk and mess up, or somebody gets in trouble and wants a deal to help.
In March 2006, their luck begins to change.
One of our narcotics agents had made an arrest of an individual named Chris Ellis, who had several priors involving narcotics violations, and this was going to be one that could create some serious problems for him based on his prior convictions. This individual reached out to the narcotics agent who was involved in his case, indicated to him he had significant knowledge about this murder. That was passed on to my lead detective and myself.
Investigators agree to sit down with Ellis, who is currently incarcerated at the county jail. They begin by asking about his whereabouts around the time of the murder.
Chris Ellis tells us that he's at home the next morning and that the shooter comes back to the house and gives him the gun and asks him to get rid of the gun for him, and describes to him what had gone on, which matched up with what had gone on at the Kangaroo with Willard.
He had specific details about the actual crime itself. He knew the actual caliber of the weapon involved, which is very significant.
There's one way to find out if Chris Ellis is telling the truth.
After Chris's initial statement, we polygraphed Chris.
A cold case may go back on the shelf, but there's always a possibility of pulling it back off when something new comes in. In this particular case, Chris was at one tip that possibly changes everything.
Investigators in the Willard Grandstaff murder case are trying to determine if a prison informant named Chris Ellis is lying.
It's very commonplace for individuals who are incarcerated to try to gain some advantage by helping solve crime. But Chris Ellis failed a polygraph. And what he was lying to us about was who was the heavier set accomplice. Well, after he failed a polygraph, he came clean about the involvement of his cousin, Lamont Ellis.
According to Chris, his cousin was the accomplice to the shooter.
Chris Ellis did not want to implicate his cousin, Lamont Ellis. That was the most significant mistruth that he had initially. Once we got through that, we were able to verify what he was telling us.
What helped make him credible in my mind was that he was telling on a family member, which is not easy to do.
Investigators push for the identity of the killer.
Jaime Marrero is who Chris Ellis identified as the shooter. When we started checking into Jaime Marrero, we realized he had a violent history. He had been involved in another shooting, homicide, several years back where he was actually shot.
Things are falling into place like none of the other leads had.
Investigators compare Jaime Marrero and Lamont Ellis to the masked gunman in the surveillance video.
The video was able to show their body height, structure, and type, and it did match. It was a key piece of evidence, without question.
Jaime matches up to the smaller guy, and Lamont definitely matches up with the larger male.
The two individuals matched the physical description of the two suspects to a T.
Investigators ask Ellis about the pickup truck seen in the video.
We find out from Chris that the truck had nothing to do with the case. We never were able to identify who was in the truck, but they were in one of their relatives' car and had been driving it that night.
Now, to build a case against Marrero and Ellis, investigators zero in on a piece of potential evidence.
According to Chris Ellis, Jaime Marrero came to his house, asked him to get rid of the gun. Chris told me that he had thrown the gun in a pond in the lower part of the county in a rural area. He had some connection in that pond because of a relative living close by.
I went to the pond with law enforcement and Richland County divers. I learned ponds are some of the toughest thing to dive for because you can't see.
We searched that pond for days, but were not able to recover it.
Desperate for more evidence, investigators attempt to leverage their best asset.
When you have a crime like this with a lack of forensic evidence or ballistics, and you've got somebody that's giving you a tip that is acquainted with the suspects, a pretext phone call is an investigative technique that is often used. It's a call that we record, and we attempt to get either a confession over the phone or acknowledgement to the crime.
We set up a patch call where Chris called Jaime Marrero to see if Jaime's going to say anything incriminating.
Christopher was able to get Jaime on the phone, and Jaime basically said, you know, why are you doing this? Why are you talking to me about this on the telephone?
If you called me and asked me about a homicide and was implicating me as saying that, tell me about what happened, I'd be telling you, I don't know, I wasn't there. And that's not what Jaime was saying.
Which, in our view, was basically an acknowledgement, which was very significant.
The content of the conversation corroborated Chris' information immediately. And that was significant to Chris's credibility.
Then, the attention shifts to a different member of the Ellis family.
Chris's girlfriend at the time was cooperative in the investigation, and she had some degree of influence on Lamont.
Of course, Lamont finds out from the others that he's being given up. Communication is made with Lamont, who then calls into the sheriff's department and offers to come in to the sheriff's department.
Lamont Ellis sits down with investigators to share insight into exactly how and why Willard died.
That night, they had gone out to a pool hall that was right behind the Kangaroo. When they left there, Jaime was talking about doing the robbery.
But according to Lamont, when Willard resisted, Marrero lost his cool.
Lamont was pretty much upset that Jaime had shot the guy, said that was not necessary.
After we got Lamont Ellis's statement and he fully corroborated Christopher's tip, that was enough for us to secure arrest warrants for Jaime Marrero.
Willard's family is pleased with investigators' progress, but they find some of the case details shocking.
The accomplice that was arrested, Lamont, my mom knew his mom and had kind of seen him grow up. So everyone was kind of surprised to hear that Lamont was involved.
In a strange coincidence, Robert Cribb believes the events of August 4th were not Willard and Lamont's first encounter.
Lamont was in Will's class. He pushed Will outside, and I said, no, Lamont, you need to stop and leave him alone. When they told me they had caught the killers, I felt relieved. I felt Will got the peace he deserved.
Lamont Ellis is charged with assault and robbery. Jaime Marrero is charged with the murder of Willard Grandstaff. His trial is set for September 2008.
This was a murder. This was a cold-blooded murder, and he needed to be convicted of that.
On September 22, 2008, the trial for the murder of Willard Grandstaff begins. But there's a problem.
I've been doing this a long time, and I love what I do. I love doing this job. But this case was not an easy case. There just was not any evidence, no forensics, no DNA. It was a tough case for law enforcement to crack, no question about it.
Without something directly linking him to the murder, prosecutors fear Marrero will walk.
We don't stop the investigation when the arrest takes place. We obviously wanted to build as strong a case as possible.
One of the other significant parts of the investigation post-arrest were some jailhouse phone calls. One of those calls, Mr. Jaime Marrero was talking to his girlfriend, and as a result of that, law enforcement went and talked to her. She said that he had confessed to her. Law enforcement obviously was excited at that news.
Just days into the trial, the prosecution's new star witness takes the stand.
You know, some folks are just credible. They just reek with credibility. And her testimony was powerful. And I can visually remember looking at Marrero, and he was actually slipping down in his seat as she was testifying. And he felt it. And I know the jury felt it. And it was just strong, credible evidence. I'm so glad she came forward. It was a good circumstantial evidence case. With her testimony, it really took it up a notch, too.
After her testimony, Jaime's lawyer asked the judge for a break. Jaime wanted to speak to family members, and after a period of time, he made what appeared to be a very emotional decision to plead guilty to murder and attempted armed robbery.
I told the judge at the trial, these guys have deprived me of a future as well as my son. I said, the only thing I want you to do is deprive them of their future.
Lamont Ellis is sentenced to 5 years for conspiracy and 10 years for assault. Jaime Marrero is sentenced to 38 years in prison for the murder of Willard Grandstaff.
A plea to murder is a little bit unusual because murder carries a minimum of 30 in South Carolina to life. It's what we call pine box life. So securing a murder conviction, a non-parolable offense, and then getting 38 years, we felt pretty good about that.
That video, it'll always be with you. You can never forget it. I actually ride by the Kangaroo every day going to my job and look over there and think about this case every day.
Willard's family remember the young man who in his final moments gave his life to protect the place that he loved.
He showed love to everybody that came in contact with him. I've always been proud of my son. Everything he's done, everything that he wanted to accomplish, but didn't have a chance to. Yeah, I've always been proud of him for wanting to be something. But one regret that I have is that he's no longer around for me to continue being the proud mother. I love you. And still wish you was here with me, but it can't be.
still to this day gets to me. Knowing that I miss him every day, to wish he was still here to talk to me. I'll walk up to his grave and I'll say, hey, Will, I'll miss you. I wish you were still here so we could go hang out somewhere, go get something to eat somewhere or something. And I could literally feel like he's putting his arm around me, telling me, hey, buddy, how are you? I'm right here with you. And then within 2 seconds, it's gone. I guess his way of telling me, hey, I'm here. I'm glad to see you. I'm doing okay. And I'll believe that till my dying day.
If I could do anything, I'd want to give him a hug. I miss his hugs. I still remember his hugs. He gave bear hugs, and they were just the best hugs. He's the person you would have wanted to be friends with. I like how my aunt put it on his headstone. He was a gentle soul. That's what he was. Big friendly giant.
Do you guys feel that basketball saves lives in our community?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely. Can't be out on the streets. Because it is my fault. And so if you're in the gym, and worse than in the streets, you might have just missed the bullet that was somebody else before you.
Our whole world collapsed in that day.
And whatever coward did this, I hope you caught. Turn yourself in.
It was willful, deliberate, premeditated. They wanted Lamont Adair dead.
He was a good child. He was a good guy. He was doing something that, mattered.
The video is chilling because you just see the brazen act very clearly.
And my brother did not leave the house thinking that he was going to die that day. He was the one who made the call for him to come up there. He was the one who put Lamont in a location to be a victim of this murder.
Summer 2018. Seat Pleasant, Maryland. A tough suburb just outside of Washington, D.C. A 24-year-old aspiring basketball star, Lamont Adair, has just earned the opportunity of a lifetime. The chance to play professional ball in China.
Oh, he loved basketball. It didn't matter what was going on. If someone called him, Lamont, you want to play ball? He was there. I'm Urania Jackson. I am Lamont's older sister. He always had a basketball somewhere in his hands. Next to family, basketball was everything.
You think it's funny, too? You think it's funny?
He was just really excited. My name is Darlene Rainey. I'm Lamont William Adair Jr.'s mom. He didn't care if he went overseas. He didn't care if he played for the NBA. He just liked to play ball. I thought he played better than Michael Jordan, but
For him, it was like the break that he's been waiting for. Everything was falling into place. Everything was going the way he wanted it to go.
Lamont's path to professional success was full of adversity, but he's always had the support of an adoring family.
Lamont was born on October 23rd, 1993, in the morning, the day of my baby shower. I was helping, I wasn't supposed to be helping with the baby shower, but I was. So I started having labor pains.
We were setting up decorations and everything, and she started having contractions, and she drove herself to the hospital. I was in the 6th grade, and I remember being so excited. He had everyone's heart and wrapped around his fingers, basically.
A little spoiled, but in the sense that that's family, and he's a baby brother. Whatever he wanted, he could have gotten from any of us.
Oh, Lord. As a child, Lamont was very busy. Anything that we were doing, he wanted to do it. That's where his basketball career came in, because we would play basketball across the street from my grandmother's house. So whenever we played, we didn't go easy on him. We would just play him just like anyone else. Like, you're going to have to beat us to get to the court. So I think Him going through that, it actually helped build his skill.
He started to really hone in on his craft. Like, he was really good at it and really competitive. And then when he started getting taller, it was just like, wow. We called him Monty, but on the basketball court, they called him Tree. He did own the name Tree, just like in his reach, reaching for the ball, being able to dunk.
High school success leads to a chance to play college ball in the Midwest.
He's the first out of all of my mom's kids to go away to college, so we're excited. Iowa was a bit far for us, but you know where he is, and you know he's going for a purpose.
I said, so what do you do out there in Iowa? He's like, they don't do anything but tip cows out here. And I was like, what is that? He's like, they tip cows over. I think he really missed home a lot.
After some basketball injuries and bouts of homesickness, Lamont drops out. Back in Seat Pleasant, he must contend with a different set of concerns.
The level of violence is escalating here. It worried him to come back home. He was scared that something would happen to him.
You would hear of gun violence. You would hear of, different tragedies. If you cross out of Maryland, you're right there in D.C., and sometimes the crime from D.C. would come over into Prince George's County.
But Lamont continues to work on his game, and in 2018, earns his shot to play in China. Months earlier, he received even more thrilling news from an ex-girlfriend. Lamont is going to be a father.
His son's name is Makai. I remember the first time meeting him, I was like, he is the epitome of his father. It just is amazing how DNA is passed to the next generation because he acts just like him. His stance and everything is just like him.
On August 7th, Lamont shares exciting news about his son with his sister Urania.
I remember he came and showed me a video, and he's like, did you see Makai walking? He shows me the phone. He was like, he's walking.
Oh my gracious!
And this is as he's leaving out of the door. And I give him a hug, and I said, I love you, be safe. And he was like, okay, I'll see you later. And, I hold that memory and I cherish it because who would ever think that that would be the last time I see my little brother alive?
The next day, Lamont's older sister receives an alarming call.
I'm at the gas station pumping gas. The phone rings. This guy that Lamont grew up with, he's like, your brother just got shot. He just got shot? Like, what do you mean he just got shot? Oh no, your brother just got shot. And so, I started crying. I asked where it was, and he said it was on Craig Street. And when I called 911, I told the operator that somebody just called me and told me that my brother was shot because they sent an ambulance. And she said the police were there. I'm praying that he's okay. Please keep the blood flowing to his heart.
I'm Jonathan Church. I'm a Deputy State's Attorney in Prince George's County State's Attorney's Office. The police get a 911 call for the shots fired on Griggs Street. And when they arrive, they find that a man was suffering from multiple gunshot wounds.
My name is Thea Zumwalt. I'm an Assistant State's Attorney in Prince George's County, Maryland. Paramedics arrived within minutes of the call. He was found between a parked car, and then the curb, and they determined that he was unresponsive.
So as soon as he is pronounced dead, homicide unit shows up. One goal is to come collect all the forensic evidence that they can find. He has his phone with him, so they do identify him as Lamont Adair. And then that starts the homicide detectives running.
The reports that they were getting was that a car drove by and was firing. So they had casings all along the road that they had to make sure that they got them all.
It was somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 fired cartridge casings, which really indicates to us that the gun was fired probably to the point of where it was empty. It was apparent based on the location of the gunshot wounds that some of those are what's called defensive wounds, where he was moving and trying to avoid being shot at, which would give you an indication that the person was walking up on him as he was firing as well.
There were several buildings to this complex, and that apartment complex did have several cameras. So they made it a priority to secure the footage for that.
They don't get to view it right away, so they're dragging in as much potential evidence as possible that might help solve, number one, what that vehicle was, and then who was in the vehicle at the time, and then who would have had a reason to do this.
And once the initial scene is secured, and in this case there was no one who committed the crime who was on scene, so they were able to secure it pretty quickly. And it was a pretty large area that they had to cordon off.
So when we got in there, they had it taped off and wouldn't let us get to where he was. And they was, not letting me see him. No, you can't come close. I said, no, I'm going to see him. But when you deliver a baby and they cut the umbilical cord, it's still an invisible umbilical cord still there. Because you can feel one of your kids, there's something going wrong. I just think about how a waste of life it was.
Investigators discover critical clues in Lamont's final moments.
This person who shot Lamont knew him.
A surprising motive emerges.
The phrase everybody uses is the streets are talking.
There were several rumors that he was a snitch for the police.
And the killer's inner world is revealed.
He's hot-headed. He gets angry.
On 8/8/2018, this is where Lamont William Adair Jr., Tree, Monty was murdered at. Today is his 27th birthday. We miss you, Monty. Rest in peace. Baller for life.
As investigators process the scene of Lamont Adair's murder, local media race to cover the tragedy.
And whatever coward did this, I hope you caught. Turn yourself in.
So a crowd starts to gather because it's a very populated area and it's midday. There's an entire team of detectives that spread out and look at different things, knocking on every door of every apartment that had a window that oversaw where this happened, asking people's names and identification information and phone numbers. What did you see?
There really wasn't anything clear in the immediate information that the detectives received for them to go to figure out why him.
In search of leads, detectives turn back to a piece of evidence recovered from the crime scene.
When Mr. Adair is found, he has his phone with him, and the phone can be like a wealth, the treasure trove of information. They can identify who his family members are, who he is in particular, start talking with family members.
Later that evening, investigators asked Darlene about Lamont's movements that afternoon.
I told them they were living at my house. Lamont and Makai. Lamont had his room downstairs. So he was down there about maybe 2 or 3 hours playing with Makai. And then I think he got a phone call because he came upstairs and he went in he said, "Here, Mom, take him." He was going out to work out like he normally did, but he was meeting somebody.
What she didn't realize is what seemed like an everyday moment would be one of Lamont's last.
I don't know why, but something just told me, look out the door. When I saw him walking down the street, and he was gone.
So initially, after talking to family and friends of Lamont Adair, there isn't somebody that readily stands out as a suspect because he's not involved in anything that we're aware of that would have made him a target.
Investigators then turn their focus to Lamont's online activity in the days leading up to his final moments.
There are a team of detectives checking his social media to see who he posted recently with, what he might have said, whether it was something that might have been responded to hostilely.
From what was in his phone, he lived a normal 20-something-year-old, talented, handsome individual's life.
Lamont's family, however, believe his growing notoriety and recent success may have made him a target.
A lot of people were upset with Lamont because of the opportunities that he has. And we're all like, we know he was just about to go play basketball overseas, and really, a lot of people were jealous of him.
He was headed to the basketball court not far from where he was shot and killed. Who was he meeting there? Were the people there that were supposed to be there? Where were the people that he was supposed to meet if they weren't there? One of the people that Lamont may have been going to play basketball with was a man by the name of Thomas.
As they process the events of August 8th, Lamont's family have grown suspicious of the friend who invited him to play ball that afternoon.
My brother did not leave the house thinking that he was going to die that day. Thomas told Lamont, let's go play basketball.
People were going around saying that Thomas set it up, which we felt that way anyway, because it was just too coincidental that you call him and tell him to come up and play.
Rumors suggest that Thomas may have coordinated with the gunman to get Lamont to Gregg Street.
If anyone were able to call him somewhere, it would be Thomas, because he trusted him.
The indication was that he was plotting to do this to Lamont. There were rumors. He knew that it was happening and they helped facilitate it.
Lamont's family have tipped off investigators to a friend who may have been involved in the murder.
Thomas was somebody who was on scene at the time of the murder. Detectives were looking at him as possibly being involved, or at least not telling what he really knew about him.
Thomas was one of the first names that I gave to the detectives. He was the one who made the call for him to come up there. He was the one who got him to come out of the house. He was the one who put Lamont in a location to be a victim of this murder.
Police actually interviewed Thomas. He came into the station and they interviewed him there to determine whether he might have been involved or what he knew.
Investigators begin by questioning Thomas about his plans for that day.
So when police talk to him, he's very quiet, trying to figure things out. You can tell he's contemplative. He had not yet met with Lamont and didn't know anything that was useful. They just didn't get any information that was usable from Thomas.
Detectives then set out to validate his version of events.
We had 6 or 7 cell phone dumps that we went through. His phone was pulled, and there was no indication that he had anything to do with the murder of Lamont Adair.
They could tell that he called Lamont up to the scene. He was the one who made the call for him to come up there, but they didn't feel like he was involved.
After clearing Thomas, detectives gain access to the footage from the housing complex that could reveal Lamont's final moments.
So when police actually pull the footage of this video camera that's on the corner of one of the apartment buildings, it does a 360-degree pan. Every couple seconds, it starts to pan away into the back through an alley to another street and then back around to the front. And we have very small snippets of it because it's rotating the entire time.
Detectives then cue the tape up to the moment in question.
And at about 3:49, 3:50 that afternoon, you can see an individual who we know is Lamont Adair based on where he falls and where police find him. And then eventually you see a gray Toyota Corolla pull up. And that's when the driver's door opens and the driver jumps out of the vehicle and approaches Lamont Adair.
The video is chilling because you see the figure just fire, shooting in broad daylight, and you see Lamont get down to his knees and he's trying to fight, but he's just executed on the street in front of everybody.
And then the camera pans out of view.
When the camera returns to the scene, the final moments of the tragedy unfold.
after he had shot Lamont. He runs back to the driver's side. He can't get into the driver's side, and he hops to the back of the car. He gets in and the car drives away. You couldn't identify any movement in the car, but we were able to determine that there was somebody else in the car at the time who was in the driver's seat because the car drove away with the defendant in the back.
We know there's another person who witnessed the shooting, a person who slid into the driver's seat and shut the door.
To me, this person who shot Lamont knew him. I mean, it was willful, deliberate, premeditated. They wanted Lamont Adair dead.
I am Aisha Braveboy, State's Attorney for Prince George's County, Maryland. Surveillance video can be extremely helpful in identifying suspects. In this case, however, it was very, very grainy, so it was very difficult to make out the features of the suspect.
You can tell that the driver who exited the car had dreads, was an African-American male. Beyond that, there was nothing in that video that could tell us who that was. It was a very small, common car, gray in color. There was nothing unique about it. There was no way to tell the license plate.
But upon rewatching Lamont's final moments, they observe someone else who may be able to identify the killer.
So the shooting takes place right here, but in the video you actually see this maintenance worker had pulled up to the main street where the defendant's car was traveling. But you saw in the video, they saw everything. And then initially when I reviewed this video, I said to John, let's get this maintenance worker in.
Days later, investigators bring this eyewitness in for questioning.
How you doing, sir? I do appreciate you coming and taking the time to talk to me. I'm sure you're busy and really don't want to be a mole. I just want to get some basic information from you. And what do you do over there? On the day of the shooting, you remember that day? Yeah. Can you tell me what happened?
I just back and I didn't pull up in the car because he just come pull up, start shooting.
The person that was doing the shooting, can you describe the person at all?
Right. Like somebody hit the back of a shovel.
We missed them. Lamont's 27th birthday, baller for life, celebrations of his life. This is Lamont's niece that he never met. She'll be a year old. All right, this month.
It's Cal, a friend of Monty. Man, we miss you down here. You know, you want to live forever, be your family, real friends. Happy birthday, happy 27th birthday. We love you, miss you.
I got him.
Happy birthday, Monty. 27th birthday.
Investigators are questioning a witness who observed Lamont Adair's final moments in hopes of identifying the shooter.
On the day of the shooting, you remember that day?
I just back and I didn't pull up in the car because he just come pull up, start shooting.
The person that was doing the shooting, can you describe the person at all?
I don't know the person who got shot. I don't know the one who shot.
Did you see someone get out of the car?
No.
No?
No.
Can't describe anything about them?
No, because I'm scared. I don't wait for, I don't look for nothing.
This maintenance worker, he didn't see anything.
You know, black, white, Asian.
No.
So it was a very frustrating, moment for us.
I appreciate you coming in to talk to me. I mean, of course, I wish you had more information, but I appreciate you.
The witness's failure to identify the shooter highlights a major challenge detectives are facing.
Sadly, there is an anti-snitching mentality for witnesses, and a lot of that probably is out of fear. They've got to live with the people that may have been involved in the incident.
I understand the very real danger that people may feel if they do talk about cases. But in this particular case, it was so frustrating to see the number of people out and nobody saw anything who could really tell us where to go.
In the face of community silence, Lamont's family decides to speak out.
The neighborhood didn't talk. So we got together as a family and we're like, well, we need to go up there and protest. We walked from the street where he was murdered all the way down to the rec center.
What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now!
The thing that mattered to me most was making sure someone opened their mouth enough to find out who did this to my brother.
Don't sit and hide behind the windows and curtains. Tell what you know.
I said, you know, today is my son, Lamont Williamdale Jr. Tomorrow it could be your father, your brother, somebody you love, so you would want to tell what happened because you would want somebody to tell you what happened to your family member.
In the days following the protest, it's apparent that their message is getting through.
People had started inboxing me from seeing us on the news, from seeing us up there protesting, from us pleading with the community members to speak up.
The detectives fielded many reports from the family about what they had heard, who they heard it from, and the family was really active in trying to just find out information and funnel it to the detectives.
One rumor suggests that an incident in Lamont's past made him a target for revenge.
There were several rumors. One of them was that he was possibly a snitch for the police. That was basically that came up because he had recently, prior to this, had acquired a weed charge where he was found in a car smoking some weed.
Like most of the kids his age, Lamont has started recreational use of like marijuana. I think that's the way that he, you know, detached from his issues or problems. And he had gotten into some trouble and they arrested him.
It seems that after the arrest, some individuals may have viewed Lamont with suspicion.
I don't believe he was in jail for very long when he had been arrested for that. And certainly some of the rumors that circulate is that if you're out quickly, that you must be working with the police. And I guess the phrase everybody uses is the streets are talking. And so some of the original rumors that went around were that potential suspects could be people who weren't happy about that.
Detectives reach out to their partners in the narcotics unit.
It wasn't a big charge. There would be no reason for him to want to subject himself to the dangers of becoming a snitch to work off a weed charge.
We had no knowledge that he had been working with police on anything.
Lamont didn't tell on anybody. He took the charge and then he put that moment behind him and he moved forward. Like that little scare turned his life around.
It's another dead end. But then, a friend of Lamont approaches police, claiming she has knowledge about the gunman seen on the surveillance video.
Do you want something to drink real quick while I get my stuff?
No, I'm fine.
Say your full name, please.
Kenya had asked to talk to the detectives in charge of the case because she believed she had some information about who had done it. And that's when the case really got started.
Detectives begin by asking Kenya about her connection to Lamont.
He's been over my house, but Lamont has been my friend for so long, I would never do anything to put him in any type of harm's way.
So, explain to me, you said you believe you know a motive.
Kenya then reveals something that she previously kept secret. She and Lamont were more than just friends.
So I'm not denying that Lamont and I had anything going on.
When did you start sleeping with Lamont?
We didn't start sleeping together until like June. And that's why I'm coming here.
According to Kenya, the relationship with Lamont pushed her ex over the edge.
What makes you think that, because of everything that was going on between you and him, that he would go and kill Lamont?
I really feel like he did. He's hot-headed. He gets angry. He's a loose cannon. I feel like he did it just because of the situation. I'm worried that if he did do it, he might come after me.
Well, what would make you think he would do it?
He told me he would kill me.
On August 10th, 2018, a woman named Kenya tells investigators that her ex, Franklin Scott, may have killed Lamont Adair.
She wanted the police to know that she and Franklin Scott had a pretty tumultuous relationship consisting of several protective orders, but also 2 young children. So they were on again, off again. I believe there was allegations that he had tased her. So there was definitely a rocky relationship there. That relationship officially ended in the beginning of May of 2018.
Because he's seen that Lamont was so supportive of me. He hopped into my Snapchat and he's seen how often Lamont and I were together.
Franklin Scott was clearly obsessed with Lamont Adair and the relationship that Lamont had had with Kenya.
Frank is short. He's like 5'3", and he's always self-conscious about that. Like, you don't want me because I'm small, I'm short, you want to tall. It's so messed up that you just moved on with a basketball player.
He lost it, knowing that she ran to basically his worst nightmare, a talented, tall, good-looking guy.
It makes me cry, but I really feel like he did it.
Then she offers more details that increase the detective's interest.
What's he look like?
He's short. He's about 5'3". He has dreads.
What kind of hair does he have?
He has dreads, long dreads.
How long are they?
Maybe like here.
Down there?
Yeah.
He had long dreads. He matched the physical description of the person who conducted the shooting. Franklin Scott did have a prior firearms charge, so we knew from that he had access to weapons. So that also was something that we were looking at as important.
When they asked Kenya what type of vehicle he drives, she says that he used to drive a BMW and that was in the shop. She mentions that she believes he's been driving a rental vehicle, possibly a gray Toyota.
The same type of car observed in the surveillance video. Investigators then ask about her contact with Scott on August 8th.
She told police that she received a phone call from Franklin Scott the day of the murder. She was at work at the time.
He was in the car driving when I was speaking to him.
Do you remember hearing any voices, anybody else that could have been with him?
It was somebody else with him. He has like, I know his voice is kind of deep but high at the same time.
She said she recognized that voice to be Elijah Wan Jackson because his voice is characteristically raspy.
It was O.J. Jackson. He had a nickname of O.J. the Shooter. He had a prior record as well.
If you had to leave right now and go find him, where would you go?
I don't know. Mom, maybe at OJ's house.
At the time, the detectives were looking everywhere for him. They put out feelers everywhere trying to track him down. But after the murder, they were already gone.
To narrow the search, they continue to focus on the vehicle spotted in the video.
It's not until Kenya kind of comes out and we find out that the suspect rented a vehicle. She mentions a gray Toyota. Eventually, they do locate the rental vehicle, parked on a street in the Seat Pleasant area.
After the murder, Franklin Scott basically parked the Corolla and walked off.
A search of the car reveals bullet fragments inside. But there's no sign of the murder weapon. Then, in their quest to locate Scott, investigators recall a detail from his criminal past.
They knew that he had to report for his pending gun charge in Anne Arundel County.
One of the detectives realized that Mr. Scott had a court date. And so on August 23rd, Prince George's County Police Department were sitting on the Anne Arundel County Courthouse in Glen Burnie, Maryland, waiting for Mr. Scott to show up for his court date. And it was then that they arrested him for the murder of Lamont Adair.
If he had thought that Kenya would be likely to talk, I think he wouldn't have set foot in that courthouse.
He's taken to the Criminal Investigation Division for the Prince George's County Police Department, and he asks for a lawyer, so the police never get a chance to speak to him.
Eager to collect more evidence against Scott, detectives begin monitoring his phone calls from prison.
Within the week that he was arrested, he had made some jail calls asking his acquaintance to help him get rid of his babies, which the detectives were able to determine he was talking about his guns.
Locating the weapon used in the murder would bolster the prosecution's case.
Unfortunately, they listened to the jail calls a couple days after they were made, so by the time they were able to get a search warrant and search the house, there was no indication of any firearms there.
The failure to find the weapon is a blow to the investigation.
What we had at that time was not enough. It was enough for probable cause, which got Franklin Scott to be arrested, but it wasn't enough to find him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. We knew we needed somebody involved in that moment to be able to be in court and point at Franklin Scott and say he's the one who shot repeatedly at Lamont Adair and killed him.
That man is Elijah Jackson.
If we wanted who was truly responsible for this, we had to find him. So police immediately zeroed in to track him down.
To bring the killer of Lamont Adair to justice, investigators must track down his suspected accomplice, O.J. Jackson.
I had been watching social media, and O.J. was traveling. He would go to Texas or Florida, I think it was, come back. Like, he's active on his social media page.
But 16 days after the homicide, police get word that Jackson has returned to the Seat Pleasant area.
On August 24th, police find Elijah Jackson at his home, and that's when they bring him in to interview him about his involvement.
They interviewed him pretty extensively for a couple hours. At the end of the interview, he got real quiet, and the detectives asked him something, and he indicated that he wanted to talk to his mother. And his mother came in, and you saw a pretty profound exchange.
His mother tells him, you need to tell the police the truth. You don't need to be going down for this. You need to be honest.
Elijah Jackson is finally ready to provide a first-hand account of the tragic events captured by the security camera.
He made it sound like he bumped into Franklin Scott as he was walking. I think that Franklin Scott picked him up.
He hears Franklin Scott say, there he goes. The car slows down, pulls a gun out of the driver's side door, handle shoots out the window a few times, opens the door and jumps out of the car. And he says the car keeps going. And then he jumps over into the driver's seat and put the brake on.
Then Jackson observed Lamont's final moment.
Scott is standing over Lamont Adair and firing. I think it all happened so fast, and it was a surprise to O.J. O.J. Jackson just wanted to get out of Dodge.
O.J. indicated that he was not expecting it. However, he did get into the front driver's side seat. He was ultimately charged with accessory after the fact.
Franklin Scott accepted responsibility for what he did as well, and primarily because he knew that Elijah Jackson was going to offer testimony against him.
Franklin Scott pled guilty to first-degree murder. I'm pretty proud of that. It's a more certain outcome than going to trial. So I'm happy with the results.
Elijah Jackson is serving a 6-year sentence. Franklin Scott is serving 50 years.
The heartbreaking part about it was, if I recall correctly, the mothers knew each other from the neighborhood. That was a really profound thing to sit and observe.
I mean, I know Franklin's mother, but I hadn't seen Franklin in a long time, so I couldn't identify him from a cracked egg. I walked over, I said, how you doing? And she just started shaking and crying. my son was the one who killed your son. Of course, me, I hug her. And my kids are like, Mom, why are you hugging her? And I felt one mother to another. You know, my son is dead. Yours going away for 50 years. It's like he almost dead. But told him, I said, I have to forgive you for the God in me, but I'll never forget what you have stole from my family, me and my family. You took something very dear from us. Lamont, Tree, Monty. You had no right to do that. You weren't God, but you tried to play God that day.
With the murder case resolved, the family continues to process their grief and replay Lamont's final moments.
Makai had just started walking right before Lamont passed. He shows me the phone, and I'm just like trying to hold back the tears. I had a feeling about Lamont, like it was the last time I was going to see him. It was very weird when I think about it and how I felt like I had to just let him go because I was getting teary-eyed, and that was the last time I saw Lamont. Him sharing a moment from Makai being able to walk.
I wish I had offered him a ride that day. It's a lot of things you look at and you're like, you could have done differently, but yeah. No, I just, like, I think about him all the time.
You know, Lamont knew we loved him, and he loved us. And at the end of the day, nothing else matters. Go ahead.
When you look at it, the person touches like so many people, and it's disappointing because he had a bright future ahead of him.
I'm just proud of him for the man that he was and who he was trying to become, you know, for his family.
Gone too soon. Very, very hard.
It's her going into the house.
She walks in, that was it.
A mom is missing. This beautiful blonde, very young and vivacious woman.
Everybody was starting to reach out, and like nobody had heard from her.
I tried to message her to her. I've tried to call her on Messenger.
Police had to look at those facts and say she could just be off the grid right now.
We don't have a crime scene. We don't have an obvious crime.
There's no body, there's no murder weapon.
Right here, right here.
Yeah.
It's gonna look like he's dragging something. What the hell did we just watch?
49-year-old Sin has come to experience her own independence after years of raising her children.
Yep. Yeah, that's probably the best picture of my mom. All I know is my mom got some 80s hair going on, and my dad actually has a full set of hair. Seeing all of us as an actual family, holy smokes.
Laura grew up in Vancouver, Washington, and met her future husband, Howard, there when she was 18.
By the time my mom was 23, she had 5 boys. She loved the fact that she was a mother. She always told us, I would never regret having all of you kids. She was extremely loving, and she was amazingly funny as well, and she gets that from her dad, who's just a jokester at every turn.
She was a wonderful mom, always helped with everything, always treated everybody like their family.
My dad worked the regular 9 to 5. Mom stayed at home, raised the kids. She was very nurturing.
She did everything. Every night she'd cook dinner, and for the amount of people that we had, I felt like it was a lot, but she made it look always easy, so.
She always made it a deal to have a good meal. Big old feast. My entire career has been in food service, and that's mostly due to the fact that I grew up cooking in the kitchen with my mom.
But in 2012, their children grown and out of the house, Laura and her husband Howard separate, and Laura moves to the Las Vegas, Nevada area.
I definitely think she wanted to find her own sense of happiness. You know, a woman in her 40s, having that for the first time, that's got to be empowering, you know what I mean? So she did tell me that she had joined a dating app.
And it isn't long before Laura meets someone she really likes. His name is Greg Green.
Greg was one of the people who she was matched with. He worked in Vegas right there. They went out on a couple of dates, and then it went to the point where she was living with him in Nevada.
Although she now lives 1,000 miles away from her family in Vancouver, Washington, Laura keeps in regular touch with her sons.
My mom was never really good about keeping a cell phone. So our main points of communication were Facebook.
She was consistently on Facebook. Like, you can click on Messenger and her little thing would be green.
In July of 2018, Greg Green gets a job in Billings, Montana. Laura follows him there in August, and soon after, she lands a job at a Papa John's restaurant. After her first day at work, Laura calls her son, Stephen.
I remember the last time that I talked to her on the phone was when she was driving home. It was literally just, you know, talk to each other, see how life's going, have some laughs. But it's not until you look back, you wish you did more with your time, you know?
On September 18th, 2018, Laura's sons become concerned that she's stopped communicating with them.
My older brother, Howard Jr., he spoke to my mom every day. He called me and said, "Hey, have you guys heard from Mom?" And I haven't heard from her. I looked on Facebook. It said that she hadn't been active for a couple days. So then I called Steven. I was like, "Hey, have you talked to Mom?"
Jonathan called me on the 18th. The fact that Jonathan had even called me in the first place was a huge red flag. Because if there was a way to get a hold of her, he totally could have, you know what I mean? But now he's at the point to where he's like, I need help. I called my mom, and every time the phone was straight to voicemail. I've tried to message her to her, I've tried to call her on Messenger, I've tried to call her job, and the job is just like, yeah, she hasn't shown up for work since September 13th. Like all of this, and I'm coming up with nothing.
Nobody had heard from her.
I called Greg, he picked up. He says, came home from work on the 13th, and she was gone, all of her stuff's gone, all of it. I don't know anything. He doesn't know where she is.
September 24th, 2018. Laura's sons have been trying to reach her for 6 days.
So then I started calling the police department out there.
We asked the Billings, Montana Police Department to do welfare checks.
Officers went to Miss Johnson's residence to attempt to make contact and speak with her. The gate was locked. There was 2 large dogs in the yard. They weren't friendly. The house was quiet, and they weren't able to make any contact. Officers went to Miss Johnson's work and was advised that her last day of work was on the 13th, and she had not been to work since then.
Detectives tracked down her boyfriend, Greg.
When officers spoke with Gregory, he told them that on the 13th he had gone to work, and when he returned that day, he found that she was gone, and she had packed her 2 red suitcases that she had brought with her and had left. The majority of people that contact police departments looking for their loved ones or wanting welfare checks done. Those people are found eventually. You know, maybe they did go on a vacation and they didn't tell somebody. I think a lot of people, with the fast-paced life that we have, people want to take a break, they want to disconnect from life, and that can be something you have to take into consideration when looking for people.
What the law enforcement officers told me was, you're telling us that she's missing. We're not saying wrong, but we don't have enough information to say that you're right. The fact that it was a grown woman, people believe that if they aren't being found, it's because they don't want to be found. And anybody who knows my mom in this situation know that that's fundamentally not true. So the sense of like, something's happened became very real.
It's been 13 days since anyone has had any contact with Laura, and her family is getting anxious.
I posted a picture of my mom, and he said, "We have not heard from my mom." And just to explain the situation, a lot of people commented on there.
The post was getting a ton of shares. I thought that the whole thing was just strange. The fact that, you know, her sons haven't heard from her, we don't know where she is, she hasn't showed up to her job yet, she's not responding to text messages. The first thing that I do when I see something like that is I do reach out to law enforcement.
September 27th of 2018, I did receive a call from one of the local reporters regarding a Facebook post involving Laura Johnson. So the next thing I did after I got off the phone was started to research the case. While we haven't reached the level that there was a crime committed, things were starting to fall in place that not everything was right.
Investigators find baffling clues in Laura's disappearance.
There was a recent phone ping from Washington that showed that the phone had been there on September 26th.
And learn of a troubling past.
She had a prior addiction, and she could just be off the grid right now.
I'm not just gonna sit here. So the next logical step was to go to Montana.
18. Laura Johnson's family has not heard from her in 2 weeks. Her boyfriend, Greg Green, tells police he hasn't seen her since September 13th, which was also the last day she was at work.
At this point, it's still unknown where she's at, unknown if there's foul play involved. We just had not gotten any information conclusive one way or the other.
Police ask Laura's son, Stephen, if there is anything going on in her life they should know about. Stephen tells them that years before, she was injured and that she became addicted to prescription painkillers. But at the time of her disappearance, she was getting treatment and doing well.
There was a feeling that potentially she may have relapsed due to her addiction.
Police had to look at those facts and say, well, she does have a history of use. She had a prior addiction, and she could just be off the grid right now.
Detectives reach out to the clinic where Laura has been going for treatment.
The clinic advised me that she had been there every single day for 3 weeks prior to the 13th.
Investigators subpoena Laura's phone records, and when the data comes in, there's a glimmer of hope that Laura is alive and well.
There was a recent phone ping from Washington that showed that the phone had been there on September 26th.
Detectives wonder if Laura went back to her hometown of Vancouver, Washington, where her sons and ex-husband live.
From an investigative standpoint, it made sense because that's where some of her support network would be.
Sergeant Billings called and said, "I got some great news for you." I was like, oh, she did show up in town. I got excited.
Laura's sons immediately start searching all over Vancouver for her.
Me and my wife drove around for 2 hours to every business that was open, showing pictures of my mom, asking if anybody had seen her. So I was like, if she's in town, she's obviously would be at one of the hotels for sure. None of the hotels are like, nope, haven't seen her. Nobody's seen her. Not a single person.
Laura's sons are disappointed that there is no sign of her. Then they get disturbing news. The investigators made a mistake when tracking Laura's phone.
When they pinged my mom's phone, they pinged the last incoming call, and it was my dad. And it was on his birthday, because he spoke to my mom every year on his birthday. He knew everything that was going on, and he's like, well, it's my birthday, so hopefully she answers.
Laura never answered that call, and detectives realized that she was never in Vancouver. It's been 18 days since Laura Johnson disappeared, and her son Stephen decides he has to take action.
Being all the way in Washington and realizing that I wasn't gonna get an answer, that was the next logical step, was to go to Montana. I was like, I'm not just gonna sit here.
I couldn't let him go alone.
They said to themselves, we're gonna just get in the car and we're gonna drive 14 hours over to Billings and we're just gonna go look for her ourselves.
So the first place that we went was the police station. And what they tell us is, as long as I didn't break the law, I could do anything. I had inclinations about who the person, Greg, was, and none of that ever sat right with me.
Stephen calls Greg, looking for more details about the last time he saw his mother.
He picked up, it was him. You know, who are you? What is this? Hangs up the phone. So I went to his house. I was yelling my mom's name. I'm yelling Laura. I'm yelling Mom. I think that she's in there. And then that's when he lets the dogs out. So I go up to the dogs and they're loud, but they're not dangerous at all. So I just bent down and started petting the dog, you know. And that's when he came out of the trailer and lights a cigarette and he's, you know, can I help you? And I tell him, I was like, I'm Stephen Johnson. Like, Laura's my mother. I believe you know where she is and I would like you to tell me. And he's like, no, I came home and she was gone. He's very cocky. And he's just standing there smoking his cigarette. As I told him, I believe you know where my mother is. I will be the one to put you behind bars and I'll be the end of you. So he tells me to leave and he calls the cops on me.
October 1st, 2018. Stephen Johnson has driven from his home in Vancouver, Washington to Billings, Montana to try to find his missing mother, Laura. After a disturbing encounter with Laura's boyfriend, Greg Green, Stephen's next step is to create flyers and post them all over Billings.
When we went anywhere, we handed these out. So we went to Greg's work and we put them all over his window at work. And then he tore them all off.
We were like texting, we're like, all right, has anybody heard? Like, we want to know, like, what's going on?
We woke up 8 o'clock every single morning with a place to go to, an idea in mind, with somebody to talk to just try to find something. So at the end of every day, I'm calling my brothers, telling them, here's what we did. Here's who we talked to.
It was very frustrating because this is like what you see on TV. I never thought in my life I would ever go through it.
One of the hardest things for me was dealing with frustrations with the family, understanding their concerns, understanding their desire to have, you know, swift justice.
We can't just go to Mr. Green's residence and knock the door in and do a search without a warrant. We've got proper legal procedure. And at that time, we were lacking enough information to use the search warrant process in order to further develop Ms. Johnson's case.
It was frustrating not being able to get a real reaction. So it just felt like our duty to prove it.
We've talked to everybody who we can. We've been to the doctor's office. We've been to the Salvation Army. Everything comes up empty. We had gone through every single dead end. We had been through all of Greg's neighbors with no answer, with no solution. We were nowhere closer on day 5 than we were on day 1. And the last thing before we leave town that we figure we can do is go knock on the neighbors' houses again.
As they are knocking on the door of the neighbor across the street from Greg, Stephen sees something he hadn't noticed before.
I basically stopped and I said, "Hey, I think we found something." There's a camera at the one place that we're interested in.
It points right at the driveway of where Greg and Laura lived.
Stephen and Casey had talked to the owner a few days before. Now, they ring his doorbell again, hoping to get access to the footage.
And the first thing he says is, "Do you want to see?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "I have my camera footage pulled up because you were asking me about your mom." He invites me in, and for the next 35 minutes, I'm just on his floor looking at a bunch of video. So the first thing we pull up is September 13th, the last day she went to work. And then Casey's recording it on her phone. You could speed it up. So we're going through. So we're watching the camera footage. And then this is where it gets very interesting. It's him. Right here.
Keep playing.
What happens is Greg gets home first. Greg gets home and parks his truck and goes inside. And 35 minutes later, right here,
Oh!
my mom gets home. Right there.
No.
So that's mom.
Blonde hair.
It is 7:07 on September 13th.
God looks excited
That's
to
her.
see her.
It's her going into the house. We were told time and time again that Greg's story is, I came home and she was gone. I came home and she was gone. She had taken all of her stuff and it was gone. So we got him. He was lying. But, well, where is she? So we're watching the footage. Day turns to night.
What time is it?
Right now,
11:27? 10:27?
10:27.
There he is. The headlamp?
Headlamp on. We see Greg throughout the entire night. Right here, right here.
Yeah.
It's gonna look like he's dragging something back. Just moving. Going back and forth between the house.
That's when we call the detectives, like, you need to come see this.
Johnson has discovered home security footage of his missing mother, Laura. It shows her at the house she shared with Greg Green after the time Greg told police she had left. Realizing the importance of the discovery, he calls the police.
Approximately 11:15 that night, I go to that neighbor's house and we watch the footage in question. We then start viewing the video in greater detail. And it was definitely very concerning.
The detective's trained eye spots something that Stephen and Casey missed.
The footage shows the area of the driveway where Laura Johnson is observed coming home that evening, and she's exiting the vehicle and walking toward the trailer. Gregory, he's also seen going back into the garage and coming out with 2 red-colored suitcases in that vehicle as well.
The same 2 red suitcases that Greg told officers that Laura had taken with her when she moved out. And then, the detective sees something that changes the investigation from a missing persons case to something much more disturbing.
And you can see him walking out with that large, heavy object. That's zoomed in to show that area of the vehicle where he puts what we believe is Laura's body into the vehicle. And then ultimately he's observed putting a shovel in the back of the pickup bed before he leaves that evening just after 7 p.m. We believe that more than likely that is her body, but we need a lot more evidence to prove that at this point. That was kind of a gut-wrenching feeling to know that you just observed somebody's last moments.
What the hell did we just watch? The only logical answer is, you know, Greg ended my mother's life that night. And finally dawns on me, like after all of this, that I'll probably never get to see my mom again. Is that I'll never get another goodbye. I'll never get that closure. I'll never get the last I love you. I'll never get any of it. It's just gone.
But unless police can prove that it is Laura's body on the video, they don't have a crime. On October 5th, 3 weeks since Laura was last seen, Billings police asked Greg to come into the station for questioning.
Gregory told us what he had initially told officers. He told us that on the 13th, when he got home that evening, she was gone and her 2 red suitcases were gone.
In that video, it shows Greg pulling those suitcases out of the house and packing them up in his truck.
He seemed very surprised when we told him that there was video, and then he decided that he didn't want to talk to us anymore. We informed him that he was not going to be allowed to go back to his home. We believed that that was a crime scene at this point. The vehicle he drove to the police department was impounded at that point.
We have now crossed into full-on criminal investigation. We do believe a crime has committed.
We had probable cause at that point to seek a search warrant for his residence. But we didn't have enough information to that point to make an arrest. We executed that search warrant that evening and began to process the trailer where Gregory and Laura lived. One of the first things that we noted was the strong odor of new carpet smell. In the back room of Gregory's home, it was obvious that the carpet had been replaced very recently, and that was suspicious to us.
But because police find no proof that Laura is dead, they have to release Greg.
At this point, we still don't have a body. We still haven't located Miss Johnson. There was not enough to arrest Mr. Green for the disappearance of Miss Johnson.
It's a crushing blow to the family.
After them basically telling him, hey, we know you're lying, they let him go.
The entire family was, like, really upset because you have all this video, but you don't arrest him. Why?
There's a lot of frustration, but I would say it was mainly based around, like, this guy did all of this, and we could just see right through him.
We work closely with the county attorney's office and trying to determine, what more we need to get to that point to make an arrest. I had to remain focused on what needed to be done to build a case against him.
While the forensics team examines Greg's seized work truck, detectives have a strategy to keep an eye on Greg.
One of the last things we did when we searched the residence is we placed a tracker on his vehicle. We believe that he did more than likely take Laura's body to some location to bury her. We placed the tracker on with the hope of he might go back out to the location.
The tracker is placed on Greg's personal car, the same one that Laura is seen driving on surveillance video on September 13th. On October 5th, hours after his interview with detectives, Greg Green starts to move.
And at approximately 10 p.m. that evening, his vehicle started to move towards the interstate, headed west outside of Billings. So we began to follow him. He drove straight through the night, and we realized that he was leaving the state.
28. Greg Green is the prime suspect in the presumed murder of Laura Johnson. Lacking evidence of a crime, detectives have to let Greg walk free. But they have placed a tracker on his car, and he appears to be leaving Billings, Montana in a hurry.
His vehicle started to move towards the interstate and headed west outside of Billings.
Detectives track Greg as he drives for 16 hours across 5 states to his old hometown in Henderson, Nevada.
If you're being interviewed by police about the whereabouts of your ex-girlfriend and you just hightail it out of town, it's not a good look.
We were coordinating with law enforcement where he was at. They knew that we were tracking him. They would do drive-bys, make sure that we knew his whereabouts.
Meanwhile, Billings police continue the search for evidence to arrest Greg. Using his cell phone data, they track Greg's movements during the night of September 13th, which leads them to the local Walmart.
We were able to locate footage of him going to Walmart that evening. And when he went through the self-checkout, we did see a very distinct abrasion on his face, which we thought was very suspicious at that point.
Then, another crucial piece of evidence emerges from the forensic search of Greg's impounded work truck.
I noticed that the vehicle was very clean. It had been washed recently. So after 2 days processing that vehicle for biological material, taking swabs from various locations on the seat, we found 3 very, very small 1 to 2 millimeter stains that appeared to be blood.
That evidence came back from the crime lab, and sure enough, it was Laura's blood.
The totality of all of the evidence that we had located, including the blood on the door of that truck, and together with video footage showing him carrying out what we believed was Laura's body, at that point there was enough evidence to arrest him.
Hey, Greg. I remember you. You remember us? So you know why we're here? I imagine so, yes. Okay. So
Something changed or something like this, or? Well, we have a warrant for your arrest for deliberate homicide, so that's what's changed. That's why you're here in handcuffs. Okay. And you'll be expected back to Billings. Huh. For deliberate homicide. Deliberate homicide. Deliberate homicide. Do you want to tell us what happened with her when she came home that night and what you did with her? That's your decision. I'm not going to trust you. That's what I want to know. I did everything that I know already. Okay. Well, we both know that's not true. So if you don't want to talk to me, we'll end that there. Okay.
After being held for 7 months in a Nevada jail, Greg is extradited to Billings. More than a year later, in February 2020, his trial is set to begin. But without Laura Johnson's body, a conviction is far from a sure thing.
We had a theory of what we believed happened, but we just didn't have a body. This is the very first case that I've ever had that involves a no-body homicide arrest. When you're trying to convict somebody of deliberate homicide and you don't have a body to go along with that, it can be very stressful.
What is your evidence? Can you really make it stick?
Drug surveillance video and murder. Testimony begins in the trial of a Billings man accused of killing Laura Johnson.
We sat right behind him the entire time. I was not happy at all.
He was not taking anything seriously. I don't know if he was just in disbelief, like this is really happening, so he just kind of like went numb to it.
He maintained his innocence the entire time, even though there was video being played in the courtroom of him carrying what appeared to be Laura's body out of his house.
The evidence in this case will show you that the defendant took great lengths to cover up his murder of his girlfriend, Laura.
Prosecutors present jurors with a possible motive for the brutal murder. Laura was about to permanently end her rocky relationship with Greg.
One of the things we did learn from the trial was she had moved into a separate bedroom and she was saving money to try to leave.
He acted like he was at home sitting on his couch. And yeah, he didn't care whatsoever. He thought he was like at home watching Netflix or something.
He knew exactly where the cameras were from news media. There was a moment where he turned around, looked into the lens of our camera, and gave a little smile.
Greg's behavior at the trial only adds to the heartbreak felt by Laura's family.
That if this situation didn't happen, like I could have had my mom back. She would have been living in my town. She would have been. She would have been here. It's not fair.
How will this trial pan out without evidence of Laura Johnson's body?
This case has had so many unanswered questions. It's had so much heartache with it. And there's no body, there's no murder weapon, there's no evidence that shows he actually killed her.
2 years after Laura Johnson's final moments were captured by a home security camera, a jury in Billings, Montana is set to decide whether her boyfriend, Greg Green, is guilty of murder.
This trial lasted, what, 2 weeks? Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day. Didn't leave that City Hall building for 2 weeks, basically.
That footage was the critical piece in the investigation and in the trial. It was a piece of evidence that the jury actually got to take back with them to deliberations, to view.
You can't escape the silent witness. You can't escape that video surveillance.
Any person with common sense to see all the evidence, and especially the video, would know he was guilty. I just got home the day before And Stephen called and said, hey, they have a verdict already. We're headed back.
The jury was out maybe 2 hours.
You don't know. You put 12 people in a room to make a decision and hope it's the right one.
To the charge of deliberate homicide. Guilty.
Ultimately, he was convicted of deliberate homicide. And he received a sentence of 100 years in the Montana State Prison.
In my 16-year career, this is the first case I've been involved in that went from a welfare check to missing persons to a homicide without a body to a even prosecution of a homicide without a body.
And the fact that the contribution that we had was as impactful as it was, that's where the bittersweet part comes, you know? Had to extend ourselves that much.
Go through something you could never prepare yourself for.
Exactly.
If he didn't do that, then we would still be searching.
One of the key pivotal moments here was the persistence from family, and then Ms. Johnson's son coming to Billings and locating the surveillance footage. And I can only speculate, if that video had not been located or recovered, I'm not sure where we would be now.
Today, Stephen and his brothers are focused on keeping their mother's memory alive.
My mom was a part of my life every single day. I got married last year to my beautiful wife, Casey here. We had our daughter, Eliza, and Eliza's middle name is my mother's name. So her name is Eliza Laura Johnson. Big part of how my mom was as an everyday mother is the ways that I've been able to cope with her loss. So making the meals that she made, having the family dinners, you know, bringing her into my life in those little ways to keep her alive. That's what I do. She's there every time I make dinner, you know?
The only thing I have that I can hear her voice now is April 2018. She called me, but I was at work, and she left me a voicemail to tell me happy birthday. That's the only thing I have to hear her voice.
We still have the fact that we don't know where my mother lies to this day. That we have not been able to bring her home. We haven't had the sense of closure for peace. There's been no funeral, there's been no memorial, there's been nothing. If there's anything that anybody can tell us, if there's anything that sticks out, if there's a piece of property you own, if there's something you can do, if there's something you've seen, just, you know, to please come forward.
I'm hoping this outcome